Welcome to Hot Reads, our weekly look at the NFL with Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman. I'm Tom Vandervoort. And Troy, you are heading north of the border this week. Another international game in Canada. We saw the Bucks play the Bears in London last week. You're going to Toronto. Can the NFL become an international sport?
Well, I think it'd be real difficult. I think that, what the NFL has done as far as having games in London, on the one hand, those games have been supported very well. But, the thing that I think has been a little bit disappointing from my perspective is to have a game over there in London and to basically say, hey, this is important to us. And yet that game last week, I believe, only went to about 20% of the country. And so somehow, if you're going to send teams to London and say this is an important part of the NFL and expanding internationally, then I think that you've got to be able to expose it, certainly to more people here in the United States. And as far as this week, Buffalo playing in Toronto, they've done that now a few years. That's not as big a travel issue, certainly, as to what it is going to London. But as far as there being a team there at some point permanently, although the NFL has said they anticipate that someday will happen, I kind of find that hard to believe. I think it's, I've said before, I don't know if arrogance is the right word, but I think sometimes as owners or as the NFL, sometimes I think that they have implied that there's interest beyond what there maybe really is.
Very interesting. Now we turn to the game itself, and let's look at the Redskins for just a second, because as an old Redskins fan, it feels like this is a team right on the brink here at 3-3, a couple losses in a row, some major injuries. They've switched quarterbacks. When you talk about the guy behind center, John Beck, does Mike Shanahan need to stick with John Beck, or can he go back to Rex Grossman at this point?
I'm not sure it really matters much, Tom, to be honest with you, primarily because there's not a lot of other pieces around that quarterback position. They've had a number of injuries. One, they've been thin along the offensive line. They're now without Santana Moss for 5 to 7 weeks with a broken hand. They're without Chris Cooley, who's obviously been an excellent performer for them for a number of years, has been slowed by a knee injury, and then also has a broken hand, so he's been put on IR. He won't be playing for the rest of the season. And then, of course, Tim Hightower, who's also now on IR, who is having an outstanding game. So they're thin in a lot of positions. I don't know that Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers could come in and really do a lot with that particular offense. But I think as it relates to the Washington Redskins as to why they really just have not been all that consistent, really for the last 10 years or more, has been primarily because they haven't been able to secure a franchise quarterback, which there are other teams in that same boat. And then also they've been unable to really develop this team through the draft. I mean, they've tried to have quick fixes, Band-Aid type approaches, and so they've not been able to, or they've given away a lot of draft picks over the years to acquire talent, most of which is not even any longer on the team.
Now, from the Bills' perspective, they're 4-2, still a pretty good feel-good story, I would say, but they have lost 2 of 3 coming off the bye week. How important is it for them to take advantage of a depleted Redskins team? They do have a couple injuries of their own to deal with.
Yeah, they got off to such a great start, and really last year, for a team that was 4-12, they were 0-8 at the midway point last season, and so they won 4 of their last 8 games, which I think was a real positive. How much were they impacted by not having an off season and all of those things? It wouldn't appear they were affected all that much because they came into the season, got off to a good start, had some nice wins, in particular against New England, but now having dropped the last couple of games, it's important for them if they're going to, one, keep pace within the division, and then secondly, continue to feel good about the team that they have and maintain the confidence that they've been able to build through the early part of the year. This is a game that they certainly should win for the reasons that I mentioned with the Washington Redskins, who they themselves got off to a good start at 3-1, but they're struggling right now and likely will continue to struggle because of the number of injuries that they've had.
I have to ask you also about the Falcons-Lions game last week. A lot of interesting conversation afterwards about some trash talking on the field. Is that the kind of thing that is big in the game, that has an impact on the game, or is it really just window dressing?
It doesn't have an impact on the game, and from my experience, there's always a little bit of talking that goes on. I think that starts at a pretty young age for anyone who's played any type of athletics in their life, and I don't know that it changes really all that much once you get to the professional level. There's a certain element of it, not a lot of it, at least from my experiences when I was playing. there wasn't really a lot of it. I think some of the best trash talking that I witnessed when I was playing was in our own locker room, and we had some good ones at it. Nate Newton was excellent, Deion Sanders, as you would expect, Michael Irvin, but probably the guy who was best was Charles Haley while he was with Dallas, and then talking with guys that were a part of his team there in San Francisco, where he began his career. Not a lot was different there in San Francisco either. So we had a lot of fun within our locker room. I think that's probably pretty consistent around the league, that there's more trash talking amongst your own team during the week and in the locker room than what there is, really on Sunday. And that's, when players, guys like myself, talk about the things that they miss the most. Yeah, you miss the games, you miss playing in big games and winning those. But probably what you miss most is some of the camaraderie and some of the laughs that occur within a tight-knit locker room during the week.
All right, very good. Well, have fun up there in Canada, and we'll catch up with you next week.
You got it. Look forward to it, Tom. Thanks.